Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we're taking a deep dive into something pretty fascinating. At least for us techies, it's VideONet. We asked you to send in your manuals, and wow, did you ever deliver? We've got versions 1.1, 2, even the latest 12.6. So let's see what this software can really do.
And believe me, we're not just talking about your average security setup here. VideONet is a whole different beast.
Okay, now you've got me intrigued. For our listeners who might not be familiar, how would you even describe VideONet? What's the elevator pitch?
Imagine this, you can connect practically any camera you can think of. IP cameras, those old analog ones gathering dust, even still images. VideONet brings them all together under one system. It's like the command center for your surveillance setup.
And control seems to be the name of the game here. I'm looking through the manuals and it mentions pan, tilt, zoom. So we're not just talking about static feeds anymore.
Nope, not at all. You want a snapshot from a specific camera at 3 a.m. Consider it done. Need to trigger an alarm if so much as a fly moves in a certain zone? VideONet can handle it. It's designed for that kind of robust control.
This is already sounding way more advanced than what I've got protecting my house. What kind of scale are we talking about here with VideONet? Give us an idea of the scope.
This is industrial-grade technology. Think factories, massive power plants, stadiums, places that need serious 24/7 surveillance. In fact, the installation guides even talk about networking multiple clients together so you could have a truly enormous setup, all managed through VideONet.
So if I'm picturing this right, we're not just passively recording footage. This software is basically part of the operations team at that point.
Now you're getting it. That's a perfect way to put it. Speaking of operations, though, I'm really curious to dig into how we even get this beast up and running. The installation process has to be something else.
All right, so we've got all the potential at our fingertips, but I'm holding the VideONet V12.6 System Installation Manual, and honestly, it's a bit intimidating. Where do we even begin with getting this thing set up?
I hear you. It can look daunting, but VideONet is actually designed to be user-friendly. The key is to break it down. Your manual is your best friend here, walking you through every step, from installing the core software to getting those cameras online.
So let's say I'm starting from scratch. What's the absolute first thing I need to do?
Before you even think about installing, back up your system. I know, not the most exciting part, but the manual stresses this for a reason. It's your safety net if anything goes wrong.
Okay, backup's done. Now what? Talk me through the major steps.
Now we install the server and client software. Think of the server as the brain of VideONet, handling all the data, and the client as your control center. The manual lays it out clearly, so no need to get overwhelmed.
And I'm seeing all these different plugins mentioned. What's the deal with those?
Plugins are essential. They're like adapters, letting VideONet talk to all your different hardware. Got an older analog camera, there's a plugin for that. Using a specific motion sensor, there's a plugin for that too. This is how VideONet becomes truly versatile.
So it's not one size fits all. It's tailored to your specific setup.
Exactly. And speaking of specific setups, let's talk about potential hiccups. The troubleshooting section of these manuals is surprisingly detailed.
Yeah, it seems like they've seen it all. Any common mistakes people make during installation that we can avoid?
Oh, absolutely. One classic is the blank screen after installation. 9 times out of 10, it's a plug-in issue. Maybe it's the wrong one for your hardware or it wasn't installed correctly. The manuals help you decode those cryptic error messages and get things back on track.
Speaking of cryptic, what about database configuration errors? The manual mentions those quite a bit.
That's another common one. It's easy to overlook a tiny setting, but a misconfigured database is like a faulty foundation. The whole system can crumble. The manual guides you through the process, making it as painless as possible.
You know, for all the potential headaches, I can't help but imagine that moment when everything finally clicks. You launch the client software and boom, live feed from your camera. What a rush.
Oh, it's incredibly satisfying. You've gone from a stack of manuals to a functioning system. But honestly, the real fun begins when we move beyond just basic setup and start exploring the true power of VideONet.
And that, my friends, is where it gets really interesting. We're about to unlock the potential for automation. All right, automation. I'm ready to be impressed. We've kind of skimmed the surface of what VideONet can do, but this script handling in VideONet 12.6 manual is hinting at some next level stuff.
This is where VideONet goes from just a security system to a really proactive, you could even say intelligent tool. It all comes down to using scripts, events, and these things called signals to make it all automatic.
Okay, break that down for me a little bit. What exactly are these signals in the VideONet universe?
Think of signals like messages. Something happens and boom, a signal gets sent, which can then trigger different actions within VideONet. Like let's say you've got a motion sensor hooked up to your system. When it detects movement, that's a signal. VideONet gets that message and it can automatically trigger a pre-programmed response.
So it's not just recording what's happening, it's reacting to it, all in real time. That's pretty cool.
You got it. And the really cool part is these signals, they can come from practically anywhere. Motion sensors, sure, but also things like door contacts, temperature gauges, even other software on your network using something called TCP/IP.
TCP/IP. Now that sounds pretty technical.
It's actually simpler than it sounds. Think of it like this. It's just a way for different devices on your network to all talk to each other. Like when your computer sends a document to the printer, they're using a common language to communicate. TCP/IP, that's the language. And in this case, it lets those other systems talk directly to VideONet.
Okay, I think I'm starting to see the potential here. So we've got signals coming in, they trigger actions, but where do the actual scripts fit into all of this?
The scripts are where you lay down the law. They basically the instructions you're giving VideONet, like when you see this, do that. The manual script handling in Veeam Client 12.6, it actually has some really clear examples. Want me to walk through one?
Absolutely. Give me an example. Let's make this real.
All right, picture this. You've got that high security area in your factory, right? Maybe it's a storage room or something. Now you can write a script that tells VideONet, hey, if the motion sensor in that room sends a signal between, say, midnight and 6:00 a.m. when nobody's supposed to be there, I need you to do 3 things. First, turn on the camera and point it right at that sensor. Got it. Second, take a snapshot. Gotta have evidence. And make sure it's saved with the exact time and date. And third, send an alert straight to the security team's phones, no delay.
No, that's smart security. You don't have to have someone watching the cameras 24/7. The system just handles it.
Exactly. And that's just scratching the surface. Scripts can get super sophisticated, like setting off chain reactions based on different triggers. It all comes down to what your setup needs.
This is industrial-grade automation at its finest. We're not just talking about security anymore. We're talking about efficiency on a whole other level.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And speaking of next level, you know that other document you've got there? The User's Guide VideONet Web for 800XA. Well, that, my friend, takes things even further into the world of industrial control systems.
Okay, you officially lost me. Industrial control systems. Now we're getting really complex.
All right, think of it this way. You know how VideONet can connect to all those different cameras and sensors? Well, this ABB system, 800XA, it's like the maestro of a whole factory. It's controlling all the big processes, the machinery, everything. By integrating VideONet, you're basically giving that maestro eyes.
So instead of just looking for intruders, now we're looking for what exactly? Give me a real-world scenario here.
Anything you can think of. Let's say a temperature sensor on a critical piece of equipment suddenly starts going haywire. With this integration, the system 800XA can immediately pull up the live camera feed of that machine, giving the operators a real-time view of what's happening. They can see if there's a blockage, a leak, whatever it might be, right then and there.
So we've gone from security cameras to having X-ray vision into a whole factory floor. That's pretty wild.
I know, right? And it's not just about reacting to problems either. It's about understanding the flow of your entire operation. Imagine seeing bottlenecks, inefficiencies, even potential safety hazards, all through the lens of VideONet.
You know what? We started with this stack of VideONet manuals thinking we were just going to dip our toes in. I had no idea how deep the rabbit hole went. This software is impacting everything from basic security to these massive industrial processes. It's incredible.
It really is amazing to see what this kind of technology can do, and we're only just scratching the surface here.
Well said. This deep dive has definitely given me a lot to think about. Thanks for walking us through it.
Anytime. It's always a blast to explore these powerful tools.
And for our listeners, we always want to hear from you. Have you ever used VideONet or something similar? What other technologies are you curious about? Let us know. Maybe we'll take a deep dive into your suggestions next. Until then, keep exploring and keep learning.